Hello, everyone. Good evening. Welcome to the first session of Beyond, Go Beyond the UAE edition. I thank everyone for joining us this evening. I know Saturday evening, 6 p.m., not the great time, but we thought of when you have great content, when you have great learnings, people do join in. And today we've got a really good mix of folks already coming in and a good amount of participations already present. So I'll not waste much time. We'll get quickly started. We have our speakers, our panelists also ready with us right away. So a lot of people have heard for the first time Beyond Headstart. So I'll just quickly start with the background about Headstart. Headstart is a non-profit startup community started in India in 15 years back, 2007. Over the last 15 plus years, we have been focusing on building the local ecosystem in India, growing and expanding in the tier 2, tier 3 cities. We are present currently across 20 plus cities from tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3. And over the last couple of years, we have also now started our international chapters. We are currently present in Finland, Germany, and now UAE as well. Today's session is being hosted by our Headstart UAE volunteer, Aswin. And with us starting our UAE chapter as well, what we realized was a lot of founders were reaching out to us to understand more about the UAE market, about, hey, what exactly is this market? Is it exciting for us? Should we be looking at it? UAE continues to be the closest partner to India. We have one of the biggest trading partners between India and UAE. A good amount of Indian diaspora is present over here. It actually feels like almost India. You get everything that you get in India in UAE as well. And that's also one of the reasons why we see a lot of engagement and excitement of founders coming in. While we see a lot of the opportunities building over here, we realize that to these founders, it's great to understand not just about this market, but also learn, is this the right market for them? How do you really get in? How do you build a network? A lot of time and effort goes in just planning these parts out. And that's what we are doing in the month of July. We are having an awareness sessions around 4 key domains that we believe UAE has a great market for. First one being SaaS, today's session. We then go into doing a session on D2C, where we talk about both physical and app-based solutions for UAE market. We also will have a session specifically on blockchain, one of the biggest community in UAE and growing community in UAE that we have. And then finally, deep tech. Deep tech is one area where we see a lot of excitement from the government, from innovations being taken in. And the intent is that with these awareness sessions, we get a pool of founders who are excited about UAE, who understand if UAE is the right market. And from there on, in August and September, we actually go into more detailed deep dive sessions where we have training and workshops around UAE market, around understanding the market, understanding the landscape, building your GTM strategy, building your sales playbook, building your methods of how do you get in, how do you build the network, and how do you actually create value out. So that's the intent for the follow-up from these sessions. Finally, we are also partnering with GITEX this year. And GITEX is again a great platform. It's one of the biggest tech event happens in this region, with more than 150,000 people from across this region coming together and exploring new technology, new innovation happening in. There's a special area within GITEX which is focused around startups, and that has been a great value to a lot of founders from India also. So we would love to see, for founders who find UAE as the right market, what's a great fit for them, who see the potential in, how do we also bring them over here and exhibit or engage on that side. So that's the plan for the next 3 to 4 months, helping Indian founders. But with that, let's kickstart the first session itself, SaaS in the Middle East region. For that, I'd love to invite Aswin, who is the volunteer at Headstart UAE, has been leading a lot of the activities for Headstart in the region. He also leads the B2B sales for Zoho. Again, a perfect guy to actually moderate this session and talk about the challenges or the opportunities of B2B players in this market. Over to you, Aswin.
Thank you so much, Taha. Thanks everyone for joining in. As Taha mentioned, Saturday evening, 6 o'clock is a very weird time. You're going to be getting ready for a party or coming from a good lunch, but excited to bring everyone over here. I'm joined by amazing panelists, but before I go into them, I just want to give a quick introduction about myself. I've been a B2B SaaS guy for more than 10 years now. Blessed to work with companies like Freshworks, WebEngage, and Zoho. In all these three companies, I've been closely associated with the Middle East and Africa region. Pre-COVID times, I could fly in and fly out whenever I used to. But after COVID, I moved with my family to Dubai. So the last 2 years I've been in Dubai. I've been seeing the region change leaps and bounds in the last 10 years. But I'm going to be speaking about a few points about myself. But I would love to hear from my panelists also. I would like to ask Jay to go ahead with the introductions and then move to others.
Yeah, no, thanks. Thanks everyone for joining, all the panelists, everyone who's listening in. My name is Jay, as Aswin said, very similar background. I think almost 10, 12 years in tech, most of which was in SaaS. I started my career with selling, or rather reselling, a lot of Google products, which then led me into a big long run at CleverTap, which was for about 7 years, leading across different markets. And my last sort of assignment brought me to Dubai. It's been about close to 5 years. But yeah, now I also work full time and as sort of part time work with a lot of brands who want to start their business in the Middle East.
Thank you so much, Jay. Next, I would like to get in Gaurav. If you could just give a brief about your career, and it'll be helpful.
Hello, everyone. Good evening, I suppose, for most of you. You have my name. I'm founder and CEO of Datahash. And interestingly, this is the only and first B2B SaaS business I have been in. In fact, I didn't even start it as a SaaS business. It used to be an analytics consulting and implementation services business that started just before COVID. During COVID, obviously, nobody was signing a paper that said that I'll give you something. So we decided to get some partnerships with Google, Meta, etc. And that started getting us some work in a particular space, which led us to start building a SaaS solution. And that SaaS solution has scaled for the last 2.5 years. So that's what qualifies me to be on this panel, if at all, because even before that, before Datahash, I was heading analytics at Emirates Airline. Before that, Souq.com, which is now Amazon in the Middle East. And before that, in India with Make My Trip and Snapdeal. So I've been on the so-called client side for most of my life, and have recently moved from the client side to business owner, founder, SaaS founder, and even that very recently, about 2.5 years. But we do have a footprint, very, very strong footprint in Middle East, and quite a few other geographies outside Middle East as well. So would love to share the stories today and have a good discussion. And look forward to very interesting discussion there. I'll hand it over to Aditya, I guess.
Yes. Aditya, over to you.
Awesome. Hi, everyone. Nice to meet you all. Thank you for joining us, and thank you, Headstart team, for having me over second time, specifically for the UAE chapter. So it's a pleasure to be back. And quickly about me, I've been in the startup ecosystem for almost a decade now. Mostly been on the enabler side of things. So this is the third VC firm that I'm representing in my career. Earlier, I was with Chhaparwal Ventures, Anthill Ventures, and now I work for Orbit Startups, which is the internet division of SOSV. SOSV is a global venture capital firm, which is an early stage investor, been around for about 3 decades, and Orbit has been around for about 12 years now. We focus across emerging and frontier markets, so anything from Southeast Asia, India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Middle East, North Africa, Sub-Saharan Africa, and LATAM or South America is what we look at. We have about 250 plus active portfolio. We typically come in between about, say, seed to Series A kind of stage. And at the moment, we have about 25 plus portfolio in the MENA region. And that's how I qualify to be here, as Gaurav mentioned. So yeah, so happy to share my thoughts and learnings, whichever I've gathered over the last 2 years that I've been present in MENA. I've also briefly worked with the Abu Dhabi government as an innovation consultant between the last 2 years, spent about five months with them in creating a program for early stage companies. So can give a little bit of context around how government thinks about startups as well. So thank you. Looking forward to the discussion.
Wonderful. Thank you all. Thanks again, everyone, for joining in. So the first question, everyone, we popped up a lot of questions, a lot of participants over here, a lot of questions, but the first one starts with, why Middle East and Africa? Why now? There are multiple hypotheses, a lot of things we're saying in Saudi is growing or anything like that. But let us start with Jay, because CleverTap has been in the region for quite some time as a B2B SaaS player. What led you guys to choose Middle East and Africa, where people were looking towards US and APAC at that point of time during 2015, 2016? And what was the thought behind it, and what led you to choose Middle East and Africa to start with?
Yeah, perfect. I think a lot of the focus of my job, especially during my time at CleverTap, was to help the company scout and build into different markets, right? For the first 3 years, and I joined CleverTap year one pretty much. It was a 2-bedroom apartment at the time. So my job really was 3 years in to make sure I carry a lot of this sales business DNA and customer success DNA into different regions. The first assignment for the first couple of years was Singapore. So I spent a lot of time there. Indonesia, I spent a lot of time there. In my most recent assignment, I think late 2018 or early 19 is when I was sent to Dubai. Our initial hypothesis was very clear. I think having sold in India and having sold in Singapore, which are not assumed well, which are sort of frontiers of tech, if you look at the world map. And one of the things, as CleverTap started to get bigger, I think one of the things we were able to point out very fast was a lot of what's happening in the APAC and India is sort of being localized and repeated in the UAE. Not particularly a bad thing for a business if you're doing significantly well and you know what are some challenges or advantages of you selling into India or APAC. I think a lot of those learnings can be brought into Middle East. When I was at the front seat here back in 2019, it was very evident what was happening. One example that comes to mind is Buy Now Pay Later was a 2017 product for PayU LazyPay, which only launched in which I sold to, by the way, while my time in India. And then when I came here, 2020 is when I think Tabby or Tamara launched. So I was able to sort of bring a lot of that very fast. And when you're sitting in front of the CEO trying to tell him, I know exactly how the 3 years look like for you, and here's the tech that you need to be able to get or sort of rather avoid challenges. So that was sort of to summarize. Obviously, there was business intention. There was capital that we raised at the times, which we could reinvest. But for 6 months was just me flying at the time Sunday through Thursday. Trips from India, Bombay, which is my hometown, to Dubai. Scouting markets, getting the meetings. I'll talk more about that. But yeah, I think similarities in businesses across these regions, potential of UAE making things easier, operation of business got easier, registration of companies got easier, visa sponsorship got easier, and you could sort of drop in and drop out very fast regionally, this being much closer to India. So I think those were some of the key reasons why we picked first UAE and then eventually the Middle East.
Makes sense. Completely makes sense. I think that's upon a very important point where Middle East and Africa is at least 2-3 years behind the curve from India. I think that's where I think Gaurav, I would want to bring you in, because you've seen the curve in Make My Trip and I think in Snapdeal. And when you came to Souk, back then it was the biggest e-commerce player in Dubai, and they later acquired Amazon. How was the journey for you back in 2013? You were one of the most early people over here in Dubai. How has been the overall journey for you from 2013? What led you to Dubai back then itself?
Yeah, I mean, it was for me, the reasons are to move a bit more personal, I would say, more than professional. Dubai obviously offers a very, very a higher quality of life, in the sense of, it's the best of both worlds. As Taha was saying, I usually, if somebody asks about Dubai, I say Dubai is the best city in India from personal perspective, and that makes a lot of sense for a lot of people to move. In fact, the founders who are considering moving to Dubai, there are other benefits. One, if you are a profitable startup, from a taxation perspective, that brings in a whole lot of benefits. So there were other kinds of personal intents behind moving. But looking at the journey, you're absolutely right, Aswin, that at Souk, when I actually started analytics at Super. While it was a sizable company, it had about 250 odd people already, and analytics was pretty much getting started there. So there was nobody locally that was available to hire. Right? So I pretty much could not only say that I'm the best analyst, I could almost say that I'm the only analyst in the country, more or less at that point in time. And I actually had I was considering not moving for that reason that, people would not probably be appreciative of some of the newer ideas there. But one thing that I love about Dubai, and you would see that in Middle East as a region as a whole, the speed of change is extremely high. When they put the monies behind it, and they put the resources, they put the firepower behind it, shows up almost in everything from infrastructure, the way they build infrastructure. When they get to it, once they commit to something, they are very, very fast. So within last 10 years, the ecosystem has changed massively and has been rapidly progressing. As a from a founder perspective, I would say there is a much longer discussion on that. We can probably will dig deeper into some of those topics. But the notion that Middle East is significantly behind is not really true anymore. There may be areas where it is still not at par, but the areas where it has committed investments, it has already exceeded in many areas in some of those. And it continues to invest more and more in tech. And I wouldn't say SaaS as of yet, is not that big, but overall deeper tech is something that you will see coming quite a lot from Middle East.
Makes sense. Perfect. Speaking about money, and I think I have to bring in Aditya over here. People have this conception, right? Middle East and Africa, overall Dubai, and so these all family money, family businesses. What led Orbit or any other startups like for the investment portfolio? Why Middle East and Africa? Because there's traditional powerhouses like PIF and everything else is family money coming in. Very close-knit people for local resources. What led Orbit to come to Middle East and Africa?
Sure. So I think I'd shared this little point earlier as well, and I would like to repeat that. So we are an innovative VC, right? So we have that bandwidth where we're able to experiment at a global level, right? Because the parent company has been around for 3 decades, and Orbit specifically has been active across emerging and frontier markets. So sometimes it's also driven by the portfolio, right? Some of our decisions are driven by the portfolio. And also over the last 2 years, what I observed and also shared by Jay and Gaurav here, that how quickly the Middle East can transform is amazing, right? Like they announced the initiative, set their own KPIs, and are able to drive and quickly deliver as well, right? So that was one of the reasons why suddenly the whole world shifted. Like in the last 2 years, the change of the amount of people who I've met there from all different parts of the world is very interesting. Like I went to Qatar for an event, and I met any and everyone from all parts of the world possible, and some of the top ministers, prime ministers, presidents, everybody was there, right? So I was like, wow, what happened? What changed in the last 2 years? And that's when you realize that one, obviously, capital is driving that change, given that other parts of the world are drying up. That is one thing which drives the change. And specifically for us, as I mentioned, we have about 25 plus portfolio now, which is active. And only 6 of these are direct investments, right?
Yeah.
Other companies are from Singapore portfolio or India portfolio or Pakistan portfolio who have entered quickly, right? And given that it feels like an extension of India, it's easy for someone to function in the region, right? It's easy to network, it's easy to build connections. But obviously one has to be mindful that it's pretty heavy on your bank account, right? Like if things don't go right, it takes a lot of effort and money to actually be there, right? Like even if you're going for a business trip during the season period, which is from October to probably April, right? It is expensive to just even stay in a hotel, right? Anything basic hotel, smallish room, you have to pay about 10,000 rupees a night, right? And if you go during summer, which is the off season, you will not find people there, right? They have some vacation going on every few weeks, right? I was there for some meetings, and then everybody kept saying that, hey, we are about to go to Europe or US. and Eid is coming, right? So 10 days, everybody's out. Once they come back, I have this new response which is coming in that summer vacation is coming up, right? Because the temperature is now going to be 50 degrees plus. So you have to time it right to understand when are the people who you really want to build your relation with are going to be in town while being efficient and effective with your money, right? And obviously, all these learnings I'm able to pass on to my portfolio as well, right? Because if they are spending money, if someone is coming from Pakistan and given the devaluation of the currency, the challenges that they have faced, it's not easy for them, right? Like they're already kind of struggling with their own macroeconomics. And if they have to kind of spend 2 weeks in the region, it has to make sense for them to probably invest that time. So it's important to understand what is it that you're looking for, and how do you want to kind of build that, right? Probably use LinkedIn first, reach out to people, try to have virtual calls. If really makes sense, then invest your time, come down, meet people because they like to see your face, right? It's a very Asian culture is also similar, right? Like how people have to build relations in the Japanese ecosystem. It's very similar how you have to build relation in Middle East. They like to see your face. They like to meet you 4 or 5 times and then start giving you business, right? They want to build trust, and that's how business functions in the region. So I would say that why it's hot for me, because my portfolio is there. We're already investing. We've spent some time on ground to build relations. So it makes sense to kind of expand, right? And it also is important for our India, Pakistan, Singapore portfolio to get the knowledge that they have generated over the years, given that how Jay mentioned that they're a few years behind us. So we have that opportunity there, right? To be able to use that knowledge and bring that to the region, right? And even as a firm, having exposure to China, Southeast Asia, US markets, a lot of our senior management is able to showcase themselves as kind of leaders from the global ecosystem, right? So that is also a demand where they want us to come and spend time in the region.
No, makes sense. Perfect. Bang on. I think that speaks about Jay. I think you said about traveling in and out of Mumbai. And that's a pretty much like the model of Indian startups who want to expand into Middle East and Africa. They want to test the waters. They would be happy to travel like once in a month. It's very expensive, as Aditya mentioned during Jaidex period. It's just, but they do get some returns because they want to see it's a very in-person driven market. When did you finally realize that, hey, this is the point we have to move over here? We have to have we have to set up people over here. What was the triggering points and what was your overall challenges?
Yeah. I think sort of agree with Aditya, right? I mean, of course, it's costly. Of course, you can't come in and expect to just land and start to meet people. I see it personally as, and I'm happy to share sort of this theory with the rest of the community after the call or perhaps. But I see this as in phases. So when you decide to enter, you need to give yourself a scout phase of at least 6 months. The scout phase basically is an in and out with a clear budget. And for me, in the first 6 months, I set a goal for me and my team at the time to meet 50 target accounts. This means I travel only when I have 3 or more meetings in a week, right? And this means I need to be able to utilize weekends or weekdays based on who's available to meet when. But it was a very clear approach where 2 people were consistently outbounding via LinkedIn, forums, etc. Once we have 4 meetings lined up or 3 meetings each, we used to use that week to do those meetings. One thing my boss said at the time is never have lunch alone. So if you're anyway reimbursing, might as well pay for one more person to be able to get that additional information, I think. But coming back to this phase, I think when you do start, don't go with an intention for a demo or with an intention to just start selling. I think the first 50 conversation idea is to get to 50 decision makers, right? So if I'm able to get to, let's say, 50 Gauravs, right? 50 data CEOs. If that's my goal, I need to be able to get to 50 and also at the end of 6 months, be able to at least get 15 to 20 people in the room where we can either host, there's many ways to host people in Dubai. There's majlishes, there's roundtables and stuff like that. Anyway, the point is to have 50 relationships, and if your product at that point is well articulated in conversations, your product is well positioned to solve a certain problem, you're meeting the right people, I think it's safe to assume a 10% conversion, right? Even from the worst product. So 50 conversations, 5 opportunities. I think this will reassure an investment or a sort of a trigger for me, at least. This was a trigger to get into the next phase, which was sort of a meet the market. That's when it came in with some operational cover, right? You can't keep doing business on on travel visas. So you need to be able to get yourself a work sponsorship. You need to be able to have your own bank account if you're planning to stay longer, or you're planning to put your employees there for a longer amount of time. Meet the market runs for, again, a certain amount of time based on what your appetite is. But this is a lot about making sure operationally you're well set up. You sold 5 contracts. You know exactly what you said to these 5 people. You've mismatched, articulated these as a value prop. You have a clear business plan to get to $1 million, let's say, hypothetically. And then follows a scale. I'll reserve the discussing the phases in detail, but I think and you're right? I mean, set a budget, get the clear 50 account names that you either cleared with your VP at the time or your founder at the time, and make sure you're working against that list and tracking meetings. Even this meeting could be a coffee, which led to nothing at all. But you still have a connection where rest assured, when things, the beautiful thing that happens after 15 contracts is people start to move companies, right? Yeah. So I'm finding Aswin somewhere else, hopefully, right? In maybe a year or so. So there's serendipity a little bit, but definitely go planned. Otherwise, it can be very expensive very fast.
Makes sense. Completely makes sense. I think that I would want to bring in Gaurav. So Gaurav, we have seen as a vendor, speaking to directly to the product companies itself. And Middle East and Africa, until recently, has been a very reseller-driven market, partner-driven market. It's been traditionally a trade kind of source. People would not set up a shop over here. What do you think are the merits and demerits? Because you have been a vendor for quite some time with Emirates and everyone else. You would have seen a lot more engagement. And what do you think has changed, and what are the merits and demerits of even engaging with the partner? Because you are right now a product company yourself, and what do you think are the merits and demerits of going the partner, especially in Middle East and Africa?
Yeah, I think one of the things that probably if founders have, I would very strongly recommend founders to do a very good research, market research for Middle East. Middle East is not a very standard market in many ways. First thing that a lot of people don't really initially get is Middle East is not one country. It is a group of countries. UAE is not Saudi, is not Qatar, is not Lebanon, is not Jordan, is not. So you have to first understand that unless, and while people do move across countries as well, as Jay was saying, but there you have to have relationships built across all of them, because just doing UAE does not really give you Middle East. Just doing Saudi doesn't. So that's one of the portions of the market research. The other portions of market research that will typically, when a founder does, they realize Middle East is a very market, very heavy on the notion of service and high touch to an extent. Their notion is for anybody who's selling product, they think that they are selling, they like to sell what they have built. But Middle East doesn't like it that way. The way Middle East likes things more often than not is a white glove service where you may have a product behind it, but unless you cushion it with a level of service that's saying that you don't have to do a lot of work, our service team, customer success, delivery, whatever you may want to call it, will kind of, give you the white glove treatment, onboard you onto the product, etc., and so on. Some of the larger contracts may be hard to win, because Dubai likes to, or Middle East in general, tends to be more comfortable paying the top dollar, but they want the top service. And the notion is not coming from a product side, it comes often from a service mentality, of course, a product is relevant so those kind of market research is important to do before you get into this. Now, to your question, Ashwin, in terms of why partners come in handy, to be able to get that trust where a service level is locally available, knowing that somebody is going to be serving me out of India, may not be available to come to my office when I want them to for a meeting if need be, because you'll not just show up for a meeting, a 1 hour meeting randomly in a week just because the client wanted. But having a local partner makes a huge difference. There are times when I was at Emirates, for example, I would blatantly refuse a vendor to, like if you did not have a local service, like I'm not even going to meet you, no matter how good your product may be, because I don't have, then they would typically come up with a service vendor or reseller / service vendor who would be like, no, Gaurav, we have a company called XYZ, who's our local reseller. They have a local based team. They'll come, they'll work with you very closely. These are the people. So that's where one of the things where partners come in very handy in terms of giving and service assurance of sorts. Right? That's one big aspect. The second big aspect is, as I said, networks, right? So as again, Jay was mentioning a bit that you do not expect to land in Dubai and start getting to meet people, right? So people are difficult, less accessible. They'll cancel meetings all the time. I don't know how many of you ever have that experience, but I know of enough. I think I had a friend from CleverTap who was mentioning that I would land with 10 meetings and we'll do 3 and go back, like, because 7 got rescheduled because somebody decided for one reason or another. It's hard. So having a local partner kind of
That's the MENA standard for meetings, I would say. Like, if known to be pushed to next week or known to be moved to the next quarter, it's known to be the next.
If you're getting 10 on 10,
having a reseller helps.
Sorry?
If you're getting 10 on 10 meetings, I want to talk to that guy.
Yeah. So those are the kind of reasons partners come in very handy, having the local service cushion and assurance, and having a local network, which basically allows them to have a couple of rounds of conversations when needed and bring you in from as a founder as a vendor.
That's great points. Taking from one of the points which is very important is like Middle East and Africa is not one single piece. It's going to be multiple smaller pieces, multiple zip codes. Aditya, since you're handling India, APAC, and Middle East and Africa, what are the countries which you would say in key markets for you? Because we in Dubai or UAE always hear about Saudi Arabia. But for Indian companies, it's pretty much UAE as an entry door, and then they expand to the regions. How's your perception when you speak with the founders? Is the mentality changing across the countries? Because Qatar is different from us. Gaurav mentioned Qatar is different from Kuwait, is different from Bahrain to Saudi. Everyone is different. How do you look into what is kind of lens which you look into it between different countries?
Sure. So particularly, I think it's a big sector to cover, right? So from Morocco to Tunisia to Egypt, and then over here we have Saudi, Qatar, and UAE, right? And so far, Kuwait, Bahrain, and Oman probably end up not being the first choice, mostly. Like, that's the observation that I have had. Oman is still coming into the main picture, but Kuwait and Bahrain still hasn't entered like the startup ecosystem properly, right? And obviously UAE is the most mature when it comes to the GCC market itself. And then Saudi is obviously second now. And given that there's so much push, right? And the idea behind Saudi is that obviously it attracts a lot of players because they have the right kind of money and they're able to create that ecosystem for them. And also, given that there's a competitive angle between the cities and countries themselves, right? And Abu Dhabi is competing with Dubai in some sense, but now they're trying to team up because Riyadh is pushing it hard. And then you have Jeddah also coming up in Saudi, right? So, and in each region, obviously, if one has to break down, Sharjah is more deep tech, Dubai is sector agnostic, Abu Dhabi is a little bit, they want to position themselves on the fintech side. Dubai is obviously pushing Web3, metaverse, etc., right? And then based on those there are also conferences and events happening, right? So given that Dubai is becoming the Web3 hub in the region, you'll see more of that crowd. It's a mix of, because it's able to attract a lot of Chinese, Russians, and Indians, you'll see a lot of those on the ground as well. And it's a different kind of crowd. You need to learn how they function. Then obviously, there are different regulatory bodies like the DIFC or ADGM. You have to understand how do you position yourself with them, right? And interestingly, for everybody out here, DIFC just is in the works of launching something called the virtual hub. So if someone wants to explore the region without spending a lot of money on ground, DIFC virtual hub can be your go-to platform in the long run, where you can test out and see if you can build relations through that, and if it makes sense for you to physically move to the region. So these are some elements which UAE being more mature and Dubai having the maximum exposure, they're able to think about such things, right? Given Saudi has a different mindset, and obviously it's changing with time, but still there's a long way to go. For example, you need to have a local partner, right? As Gaurav mentioned, that those partnerships become very important. Even if you look at HSBC as a bank, the local name of HSBC in Saudi is different, right? And I think the local partner has 51% ownership and HSBC has 49, right? Because they are a majority stakeholder. And that's been the case for the longest, right? So even big players like an HSBC need to have a local partner in which the owner is a local guy, right? Is a Saudi citizen, right? Even if you look at VCs, a lot of them have Saudi offices because that's the expectation, right? Someone from your team has to be on the ground. Otherwise, we're not open to putting money in your firm, right? Even if a startup wants to expand into the region, they need to first figure out a partnership so that they can start testing the market, and then probably look at a way of having a local person join the team, or you do a M&A kind of approach in which you acquire a small business and that becomes your partner in the region, right? So that's how you think in Saudi. Qatar, interestingly, is a small market. So it's still been a little slow, but there is action around sports tech, deep tech, because there are a lot of international universities which have campuses in Qatar. So it ends up pushing on the deep tech side. There is talent, there is a lot of international professors who are now spending time in the region. So they are trying to build deep tech solutions in the region. I recently attended something called the MENA InsurTech Summit. So a lot of interesting solutions over there. But then obviously you see a mix of all the neighboring regions kind of coming together to have a session, right? And then Egypt itself, I think from an Indian startup point of view, I'm not sure how much would Egypt be relevant, because Egypt actually feels like India once you go there, right? They have similar style of networking. The ecosystem is very similar. They have a good mature ecosystem to say, but because of the macroeconomics or whatever slowdown happened in the last 1 year, the currency devaluation, that has kind of pushed them a little back, right? And that's why you'll see a lot of Egyptian talent move into Saudi because it is a cash cow for them, right? Like they're getting paid in dollars over there. Instead of struggling with an Egyptian pound, they would rather get Saudi or UAE to pay in dollars, right? So, and Tunisia is also trying to pick up on the startup ecosystem side. Morocco is also pushing hard. They had GITEX Africa this year in Marrakesh, right? So slowly that ecosystem is building up. And what happens in the North African region is that like a lot of VCs are pushing the Africa story, right? If some of you might be aware of that. So basically what happens is that they have a little bit of access to the GCC, but they also want to go down, right, into the whole sub-Saharan Africa and the African continent, because obviously it's a huge market, right? It's as big as how many people in India are probably all over the African continent. So they are kind of in between somewhere, right? So it's interesting. It's a large market to understand. I wouldn't say that try to get into everything at once, but probably UAE is the safer bet to start with when you are exploring. And obviously it's a chicken and egg kind of style of story where if you crack one market, then it's easier to enter the others, because you can then showcase that, yes, I have presence in GCC, I have done some projects, I have local connections. And then as Jay mentioned, that once you have some local connects, right? If Aswin is there, he has worked across 2 organizations which have presence, and probably now he's moving to the third, I can probably take guidance from Aswin and enter or connect with some local players and understand how the market is functioning. And it's changing very quickly, right? Every 6 months, there's some new initiative, and it's for the good for someone who wants to enter the market. Example, Saudi is really hot in gaming. A lot of American players, Indian players are trying to now explore how they can be a part of that gaming story in Saudi, right? So those are things you need to observe, understand the trends, and then go for the market.
Makes sense. That's very valuable points. Jay, going to be bringing you in terms of, so I did mention there's a lot of, you can go in depth, you can spend more money into it. How has been your go-to-market strategies in this region? What is the, like any budgets can be synced in, this market can absorb so much of amount over here. What are the key learnings for you? What are the pitfalls you should be avoiding? You did mention there are a lot of in-person events, there are boardrooms, there are a lot of events can be done. How was your go-to-marketing spend done? Because for me, in let's say in WebEngage or in Zoho, the digital spends are pretty less compared to the physical spend is what we have seen. It's more not Google-driven; it's more into was in-person driven. At least the conversion has been better over there. What has been your experiences, and how do you say for the people coming in to explore the UAE or the Saudi Arabia market? What are the best things to do?
Yeah. I think I broadly agree with. I just want to make I just want to say one thing, right? Just keep it simple. When you're trying to enter Middle East, don't think about too many regions. At least the way I envisioned my go-to-market was very clearly a UAE, a Saudi track, and what I call ROGCC, which is the rest of GCC. If you're a small startup, or let's say a relatively 10 million plus ARR startup trying to enter here, your goal is not going to be more than 2 or 5 million in at least the first 2 years. So keep it simple, register in Dubai, operate in Dubai, and then, fly people in and out as necessary, or, you could perhaps hire somebody who knows Arabic, right? To be able to converse with, government orgs and stuff like that. Although I think most people speak English, at least in my experience. So keep it simple. Partnerships, for me, I think what's significantly changed, let me tell you that about go-to-market, is that acquisition by the means of PPC or just any kind of paid media is increasingly inefficient. And if you go back and ask your founder for, $10,000 worth of PPC, you're going to be turned around or shut down very quickly. I think what worked for at least the products I work with is a very strong momentum, or just a momentum within the product. For example, we had gated the product to be not to essentially just position the product to more US and India and eventually Singapore. But when we did position the product to UAE, be it our content, be it what we see on the website, be it what kind of use cases we solve for the region, or what kind of pages do we show, we started to get a lot of people who signed up and actually tried the product. Right now, I understand that not all products are that easy to sign up and sort of get started with. But what I'm trying to point out is a product qualified user is the best funnel that you can create, or the best go-to-market channel you can depend on, as opposed to anything acquisition-led and organic stuff like SEO and so on. At about 5 or maybe 7 contracts in, you need to then go back and look what is working well for India, right? Is boardrooms working well? Are sort of just mixers working well? And I used a lot of what worked well in other markets to sort of trial and error here. For example, boardrooms really stood out for us personally, for CleverTap specifically. But for example, participating in a lot of these conferences did not work out for us, right? Broadly because the crowd was just too homogeneous, and it's just not the right lens we could look at who the right person is, right, to talk to. And again, post-conference organization is a whole lot difficult. It's like a one-person job. Go-to-market is different in different stages. For the scout phase, which is the first 6 months, I would recommend the go-to-market be this one person who is just LinkedIn, meeting books and travels up and down. For the once you trigger out of that scout into a meet phase, which is a 1-year phase, there you can take these chosen bets. So things that work in other markets, product qualified leads, and just clear logical investments, right? For example, one of the things we did was one of our partners was, I think, Adjust at the time. I don't quite remember, who had significant business there, right? And globally was a great partner for us. I called up the guy, complete cold call, and he was very excited to sort of partner and do something here, right? So again, cuts the go-to-market cost in half, but at least you get some
Leverage.
some sort of exposure into their clientele. And in the scale phase, I think within 1.5 years or maybe 2 years, about $1 million in business, you're very clear what go-to-market works for you, right? And what doesn't. If I ask Gaurav, he's very clear how much he has to spend to be able to get across a certain channel. So you aim to get to that stage, but again, early stage, try to be very, very cautious with what you spend. I would recommend, in addition to whatever PPC, even though I hate, as much as I've said against PPC, your company will eventually do it, but try to keep it to the minimum, try to get more people in the product, try and see if you can qualify them that way, or then, there are proven go-to-market channels that you can adopt and sort of test. For Middle East specifically, I think it's a very high touch market. So keep in mind, I think Aditya made the point. I'm not sure that. Gaurav made that point, right? PMF is very market specific. So don't assume the 10 words that you say, which are a magic elevator pitch, will just start working here. You need to be able to replace those 10 with 15 or 5. And you're really competing against people. So make sure your go-to-market doesn't really depend a lot on people. So if it's naturally in sync with what you do in the product, or keep in, for example, one thing we kept an eye on is anybody who's moving to Dubai, having used us in India. Like one person's job was to look at, or maybe even help them place a job.
Yep.
I don't know. It sounds a bit of a hack, I know. It doesn't sound formal also, but rest assured, I mean, people are going to remember you if you got them a job in Dubai. And they're naturally a well-versed with your brand, your style of working, service that you've given. I think it's very clear that you'll have a champion in the account you're trying to get into.
Oh, that's great. That's great points again. Like placing cushions and placing people has definitely been, it's a reference-driven market. Middle East and Africa has always been a reference-driven market. People want to get the good experience from India, not reinvent the wheel because they have been here for 1 to 10. So they would want to expand it as soon as possible. It's like more fuel on the fire kind of market.
Yeah, I'm sure you've done some of that. What is
like,
it like at WebEngage? I mean, maybe you should take 2 minutes and tell us.
Sure. Thanks for putting me in the spotlight as well. So WebEngage definitely, we had one strong reference for in the Saudi market. Organically, they grew and they became the pillar for us. We revolve everything around them. So one strong client can bring in 10 good clients is what we strongly believe in. And that's
it's like a funding round.
That's exactly. So that's something which we strongly believe in. And anything which is like the customer is there, then you'll do an event for them. It's as simple as it, because that person would be able to get so much pull than any amount of money spent in. That's strongly which we believe in, and it has given us good returns because we didn't have so much money to spend to. There is so wide spread of market. You don't want to be spreading too thin in multiple things. So we said like, hey, let's put a strong pillar. Let's piggyback on them. And we'll be able to grow it organically because they'll be able to take us, they'll be able to put in a good word. And that has worked well for us. And the remaining was just brand awareness, because as a brand, we wanted to be as wide because it's Middle East and Africa, 74 countries, and Middle East alone is around 12 countries. So it's very different channel audiences, reach outs. TikTok is massive in one part, Twitter is massive in another part. So it's different channel engagement. So you can't be putting one right strategy for it. So we tried a bits of everything, but our key was definitely going towards a reference-driven engagement. That's what I would say. That's been much more effective and definitely events for us. And that's what I think I was more on event side. I would love to hear Gaurav's perspective also as well, because as a vendor, as a product, how has your engagement, how has your go-to-market been, and what are the key events which you look for in a calendar year as well?
I would always suggest that typically when a sales organization begins to think of a go-to-market, the normal notion comes to, doing events or specific, activations, speaking engagements, etc., and so on, or PVC for that matter, as they said, whether it may work or not. I would almost encourage everyone to think on a couple more directions to put that go-to-market money in. One of the ways is basically this region loves, say, for example, when you try to sell a relatively more difficult concept, instead of doing a theoretical, pitch, you do a POC. Now, POC obviously requires a certain amount of cost at your end, and you have to believe in putting in a budget towards it, because giving a 1 month, 2 months, 3 month kind of POC, depending on what is the value realization cycle of your product, it may take certain amount of time, and be willing to put in that cost towards getting the POCs in. So that's, say, for example, one of the different ways in which you can think about your go-to-market money kind of being utilized. Another way, which is a very, very different way, Aswin Jay, you might be wondering. So I am an advisor to MoEngage. I was on their advisory panel from a very early stage, and since I was there in Middle East, I had fairly good connect going to my own network and relationships in the region. I put in a lot of connects for them. Now, that was not cash, that was equity basically, right? MoEngage never paid me any cash for it. It was not a referral. It was since I was then on their advisory board. That's another way of doing a certain amount of investment towards go-to-market, right? So one is, I would almost, given the specifics of your product and dynamics, I would encourage you to think out of what kind of strategy might work out for you. That's one of the things. But when it does get to spending money of sorts, I think, yes, of course, I would just break it down into 2 phases, I would say. The first phase, where you are not known at all, right? So you're the first 5 or 7 customers. You will have to probably do some of the things that I was talking about: POCs, free trials, network, place somebody, like find somebody in your organization or ex network who's moved to Dubai and is a could be a supporter of yours, etc. So use some of your existing network. That's the first 5, 6. Once you have the first 5 or 7 customers, there is also this dynamic about in this market where you can use those names as a reference, and everybody knows everybody. In Middle East, once you begin to work in a certain, like, say, for example, in e-commerce, it almost feels like, I don't know, that stereotypical Delhi auntie network, where if one of the auntie knows about something, then all the aunties in the neighborhood or their social circles would know about that thing, right? So if your product is good, if you believe the value delivery is pretty strong, once you deliver to one of the companies, pretty much every company in another couple of months should at least know about you. That would happen automatically out of the word of mouth, and the small well-connected place UAE alone is. Let me rephrase it. It's not UAE does not go to Saudi. Saudi does not come to UAE, but within a single geography. So your go-to-market for the first phase may be very different. But once you have your enough a bit of initial traction, 5, 7, 10 customer success stories, then some of the wider things, like you do an event, you bring those people in together, you bring in your existing customers vouching for you, you bring in your prospects, mix them together, let them have the conversation, and then that kind of gets you more conversations as well as conversions going through much easier after that. So yeah, that's the kind of strategy I would see working for us. I mean, I like to most of the existing logo sheets. It's almost I have all of these. So basically, it's more or less you missing out, right? So once you start getting strong logos, I think as you were also saying for WebEngage, one Saudi client, right? I mean, started to get you a lot of traction. Getting a couple of strong logos creates a FOMO in the market, and that's how it works pretty well in this region.
Makes sense. That's amazing. Totally different topic. I think I would like to bring in Aditya in terms of the overall funding scenes in India has definitely been slowing down a lot. How has it been for Middle East and Africa? And what are the key trends which you're seeing in the last 6 months? And what are you looking forward in the next 1 or 2 years? If you can highlight, because a lot of startups who want to expand to the region and definitely they're looking into investment cycles. If you can just highlight it, it'd be really great.
Sure. So I think obviously, as you highlighted, it's slow, right? And that's the trend we are also continuing to see. And given that a lot of Western world is entering Middle East to raise capital for the funds, it's creating an interesting scenario overall, right? So from a startup point of view, if one is discussing for Indian companies, it's a little difficult to raise capital unless you have a plan to expand into the region, or you already have a business, or you have registered an entity. These are things which become important if you're planning to raise capital as a startup from the region. Because we also advise our portfolio that start building your plan if you're planning to enter, build a plan, and then it's much easier, right? Like given that one of our portfolio companies is getting about 8% of their annual revenue from Middle East, right? So it's now easy for them to probably start raising or start having those conversations where they can raise capital. But if it was just only a plan and they had not done anything in the region, it would have been very difficult to even get a conversation, right? Because they're able to, investors typically are looking for reasons to say no, right? It's not yes, right? So to get to that position, start thinking if this region actually makes sense. Given the overall scenario, I think there is a slowdown that we are seeing. It is difficult to raise capital right now. Also, the region has a lot of these innovation programs happening. So small ticket, pre-seed, idea stage, much easier to raise capital. Once you're into the Series A and beyond range, it's tricky to raise capital right now, right? It's a little tough unless your early stage investor is someone. So let's say if a 500 startups is already invested in you, it's probably easier because they have built networks locally. They have local LPs like Sanibel or PIF has put money in their fund. So it's much easier. Or an MSA Novo, which has probably money from Abu Dhabi as well as Dubai and Saudi. So if the investment firm which has invested in your company has a lot of local connects, it's easier because then the network effect kind of comes into place and the warm introductions help. Otherwise, I think it's slow. Trends wise, I think it's a mix of fintech remains hot. Obviously, SaaS is easy to expand. It's easier to kind of take it across. Still, I think I was speaking with someone from Egypt and they were saying that adoption of e-commerce is still very slow in the region, right? So if you're building in the m-commerce, e-commerce space, it's still fundamentally slow. And even if you're in the fintech space, sometimes the regulation bit takes some time. So one has to be mindful about how do you want to position yourself, who are the people who you should speak with before even starting to build something in a fintech like a space, right? And as I said, sports tech, deep tech are becoming essential or important for even local investors. I was speaking with, say, a Crescent Enterprise or a DFTF, which is Dubai Future District Fund. They are looking for IP-driven startups, right, where deep tech becomes important. Otherwise, they wouldn't invest in a e-commerce business or a basic business, which is more of a business which has existed in other parts of the world and now entering the region. They would rather see something which is deep tech. So for example, one of our portfolio called TX One recently raised capital from Dubai Future District Fund, right, which is a fund of fund as well as direct investment company. For them, it was easier because they are something in deep tech space. So what they do is they are able to translate or make sense of 14 Arabic dialects and get information out of it, which can be used for growing businesses, right? So these are text or speech conversations for customer and kind of vendor and clients. So they're able to use that information and kind of use that bit to make sense out of it. So market intelligence, deep tech AI platform. So some of those elements which we'll see will be doing well in the long term. And if you want me to talk about local events, I can do a 1 minute quick one, right?
Please, looking forward to it. I think that's the key thing as well. Like next month, what are you looking for? What are you eager about? Something which you love to hear.
Yeah, so I think what I observed, right, two major events in the region stand out: GITEX and Leap. GITEX typically happens in October. I think we're going to probably expand upon that. And Leap is in Saudi and typically happens between February March. I think next year it's going to happen in March. And if you're looking at having exposure in North Africa, then you have a new event which is called GITEX Africa now, which will probably happen in May now next year. And there is something called Rise Up, which happens as well. So Rise Up has been around for about almost a decade now. That is one interesting conversation. And then I think STEP conference is there, which is also happening in UAE as well as Saudi. And Rise Up is Egypt and Saudi. So these are some local conferences which can give you exposure. GITEX and LEAP are overwhelming because it's a lot of humans. You need to plan your trip in advance so that you can save money on your stay and travel, because walkable distance is always better than taking a cab or something, because then you end up taking 1 hour to just reach the location. Just quick hacks.
Absolutely. So it becomes Bangalore, Hebbal, circle kind of sorts. People familiar with India.
Yeah.
It becomes claustrophobic. You're going to be stuck in a kilometer radius. You won't even be able to. Thanks, I that summarize a lot of things. These are the key events which I plan my year all around as well. And that's where I think Headstart is working closely with a lot of founders in India. So I think whoever has joined in, we have an Headstart community. I saw a couple of messages in terms of WhatsApp community and group community. We have made one specific WhatsApp group for people from Indian founders who want to expand to Middle East and Africa. Taha shared the link. Would love you all to be part of it. We are trying to do something with GITEX as well. The same problem statements, whatever we are faced with, me, Gaurav, Jay, and whatever experience which you got from Aditya's and similar likes, we want to pass that to Indian founders. That's the overall agenda or the thought process behind it. That's why we have created that group. And I think I saw Jay raising a question. Jay, if you can please go and then we
I wanted to ask Aditya specifically about, I saw a lot of investment models, especially I think ADQ, I can point out specifically where they are offshoring engineering offices to Abu Dhabi. I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but would you like to sort of, maybe I want to learn also personally, but I've seen this model work. I think I heard somebody describe this as the best retention strategy for Bangalore startups is to just send your engineers to Abu Dhabi.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think one very interesting thing which Jay has kind of brought up is that there are a lot of incentive programs in the region, right? One place which you can check out is called Hub 71. Hub 71 has become pretty mature over the last few years. It has evolved quite a bit. Earlier, they would take in very early stage startups. Now they're reaching a point where they are giving grant as well as investing into startups. This is by the Mubadala, which is one of the sovereign funds from the region. So ADIA, ADQ, Mubadala are some of the top sovereign funds from Abu Dhabi. Some of the incentive programs are that, let's say, if someone wants to have an office or even stay in the region, they're able to give that all for free, right? And obviously, Nishant has pointed out Astro Labs and N5 in Dubai, but they don't have any incentive programs as such. This specific program, initially it used to be that you get free office and house for 2 years, which means that your employees can kind of stay there. And there's also a reimbursement kind of style of program in which whatever salaries you pay for your employees, the government will kind of incentivize and return some of those, right? And the specific model which Jay is saying that, so for example, a local VC which has ADIA or RDO or Abu Dhabi sovereign fund as an investor in them, and they invest in a startup, they're able to do a lot of these incentive programs in which they take care of your engineering team for up to 2 years, their stay, their office space, their salaries, as well as their, let's say, if the kids want to go to school, everything is taken care by the government, in which they kind of reimburse all the amount that you pay to them. So that's why probably it's easier to afford a Bangalore tech team in Abu Dhabi because everything is taken care of by the government. Also, interestingly, in Qatar, similar incentive programs exist. Over there, they go up to like 5 years. Everything is taken care of. And Saudi is also coming up with some new initiatives. I was recently speaking with MCIT, which is the Ministry of Communication and IT. They are also coming up with programs which are to attract top tech talent to the region. So they'll take care of a lot of things for you. If let's say if you set up a company and you move your engineering talent to the region, they'll take care of a lot of these. So happy to share more about that with Aswin, and they can pass on these information. Hub 71 is the easiest to check out. Jay, would you like to add to that?
No, I mean, what really stood out for me is just being able to take off a lot of people off your actual pay sort of bankroll. That was quite interesting. Again, I think the important thing to understand is the ecosystem exists. It's fast. And if you have sort of the right idea connection, I think you can, and if you have a logical sense of how you want to spend that money in the next 2-3 years, I think, imagine all your engineers being paid for upfront, right? It's a big advantage. And I think this coupled with sort of how easy it is to do business relatively compared to other countries, it's quite a no-brainer. That could actually be a good start, right? For maybe it's not the sales route. Maybe
yeah, ECKL can be like some grant model or something which kind of pays you or that specific team who you want. So for example, I was part of the Abu Dhabi government program. They were giving $200,000 grant to whatever startup would participate in the program so that you can establish an office as well as whoever from your team is sitting in the region, their expenses are taken care of, right? So such programs to invest.
200 is like 3 people covered for a year with a decent amount of spend. Yeah, sorry, Gaurav.
Yeah,
I would want to balance. Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
I would want to balance that out. It's such programs are not always on. They sometimes they come at specific phases. So when you get one, go for it. But be careful. Don't make it as a part of your strategy that 6 months from now, I will go to Abu Dhabi government and ask them to give me money to set up a AD office in Abu Dhabi. Not always. They are on and off. I mean, different governments have, like Saudi, for example, at this point in time is pulling in massive amount of they're trying to bring in people from various I would say within tech ecosystem, within construction. There is a lot happening and so on and so forth. So you'll see a lot of pull coming in from Saudi, but there is just be careful about not making if you see a program, get it there and then don't wait for another 6 months that I'll qualify for it 6 months later. Might not happen, might not be there.
The difficulty level is changing very quickly.
So what we have seen, I've spoken with a lot of founders. I think one person who I closely interact with is Gaurav from Wordloop. He's got funding from ADQ. His team is based out of Abu Dhabi. I think people would have interacted. It made a strategic investment. It's more of a partnership because Wordloop works with a lot of banks, and ADQ was the right investment for them because the gate opener was easier for them. So your investment body, your accelerator, your incubator should be lined up to what you would want. That's what Aditya was telling. Like, there's a lot of options over there in the market. You can pick up 20 different options available for you. It should be strategically helping you grow 10x in the next 6 months to 1 year is what I would advise to the founders, because if you find in deep, you will always figure out the right options. So it's going to be tangible versus non-tangible. It can be in terms of seats, it can be in terms of visas, it can be just in terms of just introductions. So figure out what would work for you. That's what my learning experience has been from WebEngage. And whenever we come into the market, there are a lot of options available. There are definitely a lot of confusing options. Figure out what would best suit for you in your company, and then you take it from there. And guys, this would just go on. I would love to speak to all the 3 of you a lot. It's been a phenomenal conversation, but I'm going to be, I think there are some questions. I think, thank you so much. I couldn't see it. I think you've already replied to most of them in the chat. But I would let Taha, because it's already late, 7 p.m. in India. We wouldn't want to keep a lot, but I will let Taha to take it forward and give the thank you note as well.
I think, thank you, Aswin. What we'll do is we'll just open up a couple of questions from the, from the audience right now, in case they have any. Jay, you mentioned, a good budget needs to be planned out when you're looking at expanding into the UAE market. What do you think is a good budget for a company right now in India?
Okay. I think it's a factor of ambition, to be honest. And I want to answer this with a lot of caution, because I'll tell you again, my personal, something I actually worked with a couple of weeks ago, right? The first year investment went up for that particular brand for up to 250K. Now, this includes the person you pay for who will do the business development. This includes a company registration for a year. This includes anything operational, be it visa, salary credits, expenses, etc. And in return, this was looking at, again, I think for them, it was 30 qualified meetings and at least, I think, 6 contracts, which again averaged out to about $1 million. But again, based on ambition, you can either go really high or go really low. But I think the sweet spot is a minimum 100,000 to about 200,000 to get one person to very aggressively scout for 6 to 8 months. I think that would be a okay budget. But again, guys, I mean, CleverTap is at 100 million yara, right? So they don't mind spending this much, but this can be like a lot of money for a very early startup. So make sure you're, again, very objective. Keep the goal in mind. If it's not 50, it should be 5, and you should work towards that 5. That would be my advice. But minimum 100,000 is you need to have.
No, fair enough. I think that's a good picture that everyone has in their mind, and it's important for people to understand that as they're planning out. We'll have Nishant next. Nishant, yes, please go ahead.
Yeah. Thanks for all this. Amazing set of speakers. Very good to know everybody. And I think SaaS is going to be the world in the future, and we are all looking forward. My space, which I am there, I've been in the healthcare business for more than 10 years now. Somehow I echo all the sentiments what the speakers spoke about here, about how to enter the market, what are the quick hacks, whatever is being used. So I was thinking I was the only one using those hacks, but I see a lot of them using it. Jay mentioned few of things, which was very appealing to me, how to fix up and line up a lot of meetings. So that was very critical. The challenge which I am going through is initially to build the product in the healthcare space is very critical because you need regulators and all to be blessing you, the Ministry of Health blessing you. So we were fortunate. We took the route, which was a university route. I went to Saudi Arabia and got inside a university, got them excited about it, and then reached out to the Ministry of Health and developed a product. So that was the route which I took. I never went to each hospital or a clinic. It was very difficult to get through. Okay. So having done that, the next challenge, which at the moment is the whole world is going on the SaaS model, even in the healthcare side, making EMRs and revenue cycle management, insurance products and all in the market. So everybody wants it in a SaaS model. But then when it comes from a smaller company, smaller institution, the trust factor is not there. So that is something very challenging. And that is where we need support of bigger institutions, probably like a Zoho could be one example, or some GE could be one example, or a Philips could be an example, where we need that kind of companies to partner with smaller startups to share that expertise and then go for a bigger kill. So when I'm talking about a bigger kill, just a simple example, the number of clinics in Saudi Arabia is 18,000 clinics, private sector. Government is 2,500. So if you deliver a SaaS-based module in these countries, there is a huge opportunity. And for me, typically from being in India, we are very conservative in terms of spending and developing the product. We have developed this product completely, and this product has to be scaled to a different level now because the need is there. So now that's where I was putting in the chat also that I wanted to know, is there a way that we as a group can collaborate together and build a solution and go-to-market strategy within the group itself? Because I see varied kind of people in the group, and that could be a good potential. And definitely during GITEX, maybe we could explore a chance to launch it itself. So if that is an ambitious target for all of you, we could work towards it, if you all agree.
So I think I'll have Aditya come in over here. Aditya, first, you have been also working with the Abu Dhabi government earlier as innovation, and you have also seen a lot of collaboration opportunities happening in these spaces, right? What are your views of such type of collaborations or such type of problems being faced by founders and how to go about it?
I think what I was able to understand what Nishant is looking at is coming up with a solution within the group or in general. Because
I think collaboration wise, I think one thing which I want to take a bite over here, and then I'll let to Aditya, and then Gaurav can also pitch in, because you'll move from a services angle to a product angle. Then you'll be able to be the right person to resonate with Nishant over here. Nishant, from definitely from perspective of Headstart and Zoho, would be happy to You have all the coordinates and everything else from the group who would be happy to help you and guide through it. But I think Aditya, Gaurav has gone through this path of from services mentality. He's telling about how Datahash from a services to a product line. So he'll be able to tell you because he works in a niche field as well. So to convert that, he'll be able to tell you. So Aditya, Gaurav, your experiences from moving from a services to product, how did it happen for you in Middle East and Africa?
I think, well, as I said, service is eventually the problem of advertiser in our case or any of your clients is what you're solving for. And as long as you're solving for the product, for that, a lot of the clients don't really care how you really do it beyond a certain extent. Of course, they like to understand how you're to get the confidence in your solution. It could be a product come service, but behind the scenes for us, the product building started because we realized the problem was far bigger. Then the market size of the problem was so big that as a service, we'll never be able to cater to the entire market that was there. So since we knew that the problem was universal, there were no competing solutions out there. Building a product became a no-brainer for us from that perspective. But one has to understand that, and that's by the way, not just an Indian SaaS or B2B SaaS problem in general. A lot of people in sales, and I come from a background where I was not doing sales. I began to do sales only recently when I started my own thing, is they try to sell you what they are building. Well, nobody's interested in what you are building. They are all interested in solving their own problems. So unless you can solve their problems, and if it takes a service, then give that service, give them the assurance that whether it is a service or a product, you'll get the solution done. So transitioning to a product is your almost like an internal thing that you do to become yourselves, make your offering more efficient. Because as a service, for example, I'll give you our initial implementation as a service used to take 4 weeks. We tried to make it extremely efficient, got it down to 2 weeks. Wasn't good enough in my mind because I figured that the problem is going to be really, really big. I didn't want to create a TCS out of Datahash as a didn't want to hire an army of cheap engineers and trying to do the same thing over and over again. I said, okay, let me find a product. There wasn't a product in the market that I could resell. So, and as a service provider, I actually looked for good products that I could resell doing the same thing more efficiently. There were none. So I built the product, which basically brought down the entire element to about 15 minutes of an onboarding call. We still do it on an onboarding call. We give the client the confidence that we are not telling them that, okay, here is a product, go sign it up yourselves, put your credit card in and you'll be done, right? Like you can finish your implementation. We actually tell them that, okay, go ahead, we'll create an account for you. We'll onboard you on a call. It will take about 15 minutes, 30 minutes, etc. We'll get it done there and then, and we'll give you a, completion report, which takes another hour for us, more or less that, right? And that is what kind of creates a lot of comfort or support in this market. So you can build a product when you have need arising out from a niche service market, but your problem statement has to be well defined for it. And you have to assure the clients of the service and not the product being a great one.
Beautifully said. Wonderful. Anything else to add, Aditya? Like any perspective which you would want to add over here?
No, I think not much from my end because Nishant's growth hack sounds pretty interesting.
Very interesting. Then I think
was this Nishant? Was it Takadam by any chance?
No. I was in the Coast University.
Jeddah,
yes, yeah. So I actually went because I had a lot of negatives. I couldn't enter the region. So I thought the university route was the best. So I went and pitched, and fortunately, my first pitch won me $10,000. And that was my salary for my team back in India. And from there, we grew on, and then we worked with the Ministry of Health. We got the project pilot done, testimonial from them that it works perfectly for them. And then we started working on the insurance bit of it. And we have a complete insurance solution also ready now. And now we are expanding to the Middle East, means the UAE market. I've been to Hub 71, visited them. I'm a regular to 2 events in Dubai because I'm in the healthcare side. So I attend GITEX and I attend Arab Health, which is October and January. These are 2 events which I usually attend. And last GITEX, I got this idea of building up another product in the insurance space. And within 6 months, I got a customer and I got, I got a customer onboarded and a POC done at a customer end and a partner signed off from US. So all 3 things done within 6 months. So GITEX is very effective and I urge everyone to work towards it.
Amazing. That's a great success story. I think that's where we have all seen. I think go back to what Gaurav said. POCs, references, these are the key for whatever we have scaled up. Whatever I've scaled for WebEngage and Zoho, we work with PIF, we work with Ministry of Health as well. We work with a lot of government agencies. You show the proof. They have been tuned in that way. SAPs of the world, Oracles of the world have taught them that way, that you should see a POC, sit with them for services, put a person in ground, speak Arabic, be that, then you'll be able to scale it up. And I think I will let Vaibhav, you have a question, I think. Please, Vaibhav.
Basically, we are we are Abracadabra Software Solutions, and we are basically a gaming startup out here. And we came up with India's first 3D RPG war game, Tanaji the Maratha Warrior, which can take heads on with PUBG. So as India has been seeing a lot of strength in gaming, and we have been the pioneers actually, we are hoping to seek services in gaming sector, which usually offered to all Canadian and US based companies. So any inputs on this regard, like media tech, gaming, and of course it is now coupled with Web3. So do you have any insights for us where we can able to pitch in? Because a lot of good titles like Prince of Persia and then Sindbad, and these are like developed by studios out there in Canada and maybe France, like Ubitech is one of them. So we want to venture into that sector actually. So any precisely niche inputs for us?
Yeah, anyone can take it forward.
I mean, I just have a general advice, having worked with a lot of games, right? I think just I didn't quite understand your model yet, but when you do launch a game, I wish you good luck. And just very important things to always keep in mind is, especially in real-time gaming, think very, very hard about how you're going to build concurrency, right? If it's a player versus player, extremely, extremely important to think about how you're going to drive concurrency for example, I have seen games fail, spectacular games fail because they just couldn't get two players to play against each other or enough players to play against each other. If it's a single person, or something arcade, I think the most important thing is just re-engagement, which you sort of already know. So make sure you're dead focused on making sure you know how to get people to hook if they're playing alone, or get a massive surge of people suddenly on the platform and get them to play against each other. Yeah, that's my only advice.
Actually, we have cracked the technology part of it, and the hook part of it actually for our Indian audiences. We are trying to offer services, but it's very difficult to get high ticket projects within the country. The market is not here to get those sorts of things actually. So market is in definitely there is a market in Middle East where studios out there can collaborate or can offer these kind of projects. But
so,
if you're looking for services, I think I'm not a moderator here, but just to understand, are you talking about services or a product here?
Not a product.
Yes, I think may not be apt for this call and this panel right now. I'll connect you offline. We do have a few gaming startups I can connect you with. Also, we have a Finland program which is going on, which is actually more focused on the gaming sector of it. So that might be more relevant to you also. But yeah, not really relevant over here. Actually, we're just over time, about to get time right now. So I think I'll just close this session with a thank you note as well. So thank you, Vaibhav. So I think thank you everyone for joining us for this session. I think it was a wonderful session where we had an amazing insights from a lot of people, experts in this market who have been here for a good amount of time. Grew in from here to coming down from India and building venture to seeing the investments coming in. Aswin, first of all, thank you so much for moderating a really well session. One, you also have a very deep experience in the SaaS space, and then being able to pinpoint or identify those problems that founders face. And then Aditya, your insights about the entire ecosystem over here, from both the conferences to the partners in this ecosystem, and also not just UAE but Saudi, Egypt, and the Qatar and all the other markets as well. I think really helpful for founders to understand the entire perspectives as well, and how do you go about it. Jay, on your side, very tactful, very impactful in terms of founders from India, when they are coming in, how should they think about it, right? Being in that same boat multiple times, helping founders that went through that journey. What does it really look like? How do you go about build that part? I think that insights were really helpful for a lot of these founders as well. And then Gaurav, lastly, you've been an expert in this entire ecosystem itself. Build that base up firstly and very deeply connected with the entire corporate ecosystem, and then your own journey from corporate to services to the product, right? I think a lot of insights for founders over here. Partner network is one of the most critical one. Finding the right partner, how do you work with them? Why do you need them? I think those are some fundamental questions that you are very aptly able to help define for these founders. I know an hour is not enough time, and that's exactly the reason why we have planned a more detailed deep dive sessions with speakers, with people in this entire ecosystem to actually go about individual topic, right? From understanding the ecosystem itself on what are the what is this market looking for, what is it right for, to even understanding different players, to then understanding how do you build your GTM strategy, your sales playbook, these inherent topics which actually are a lot more detailed, which we briefly covered in, to finally also thinking about big events like Nishan mentioned. GITEX is again one of the forums which are coming in right now, which has been a great platform for many startups. One, very important to know that, hey, is that the right platform for you, right? Once you have answered that question of, hey, is UAE the right market for me? The question then comes, is that GITEX the right platform? And if it is yes, how do you use it? Do you just come in over here and experience it? Do you come in and exhibit it? And then if you're coming in, what should your strategy be? How should you be able to maximize the value over here? Because honestly, been through multiple GITEX, it's overwhelming. It's just so many things going on. I've seen founders, just getting extremely overwhelmed, going back that they felt, oh, it was amazing, but a week, 2 weeks later, nothing has happened in, right? And a lot of time it happens to be just, it just so much happened that I could not really control things, and it just went on. I think having a solid plan, having a mentally prepared, and then also keeping your systems back and prepared really helps make sure that the amount of investment that you're making in, when you come down over here, you actually take that value out. And that's also one of the key intent of us doing these boot camps and these sessions, because we believe that that support will be needed or will be really helpful for these founders. So do sign up for the boot camp as well, and hopefully we'd love to see you also in UAE. There's a great network that we have of founders, of enablers, of corporates in this ecosystem. So hopefully happy to see you guys over here. Join us in that part. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you for coming in, and thank you all the founders for letting us.